fracture would take longer to heal, and the medical droids suggest that he didn't get into too many acrobatic situations. Being a Jedi, he could handle it, but it could rupture the splint they put over his stomach to keep his ribs from shattering or killing his lungs. It was Republic technology, using a slight incision that wouldn't be noticeable after removed. Medical droids magnetized Anakin ribs, and the powder they put over it was also magnetized. They learned that doing this allowed the bones to grow faster, and for Anakin it would take
It
only about a
wasn't
week or
supposed to
two
go
until he
this
could
way.
finally take off the splint and be perfectly fine. When
What do
Anakin
we...
woke up, his master walked and informed they would be going to the planet
Are they?
Ordotunta in the
Oh,
Sujumi sector where Pandora was. They were going on a mission with Chairman Chow and
Do you ever
Senator
find
Chuchi.
places like this
Anakin
chasing
asked why
Solo
they were going
Savarian?
out there.
not
George Kenobi told him that the
exactly.
people of
But
Pandora,
with Solus,
specifically
it
Chairman
was
Chow,
always
was
about the
worried about
Fade,
a separatist
or the
invasion,
Veil,
despite
or
there both
some
being a
other
Republic and
in-between
Separatist
place.
outpost on the planet.
Varric always
Though they
hated
lost
it, though.
contact with the Republic
At
outpost,
least this
and they were
place
being
feels
requested to go there
different.
to investigate. Anakin
Maybe
nodded his head, suggesting that
safer?
Obi-Wan get Captain Rex and some of the men of the 501st ready and outfitted with their snow gear and prepare for the mission.
So
Anakin then
you
told
have plans.
Obi-Wan that he'd be in Obi-Wan's
Greenery's
flagship
nice,
within the
isn't it?
coming hours.
green?
Kenobi nodded his head and left.
Most of
A
these are
moment after
dead.
the door closed behind him,
Figures.
Anakin jumped up and ran
Maybe I'll
towards the
clear
edge of
out
the room and grabbed his
give me
robes.
something to do.
Had time to go and
I
visit his
hate
wife.
sitting
He
around.
hadn't yet seen her since he
We
brought her
shouldn't
back
be
to
sitting
Naboo after
around.
Geonosis,
We
when
were
technically it was
You know
when
you can
guys
take...
were
No, you,
Still, it was
Varric
hard
and
to
I,
make a relationship
so...
at distance, but he had time to see her and he was so excited. Anakin radioed Padme's office inside the Senate building, and nothing came through. The Senate wasn't in session. Maybe she was feeling under the weather, because Padme was always in her office, and if she wasn't, the call would be directed to a Republic-issued Senator communicator. That wasn't the case, so Anakin flew across the city to Padme's residence, where he knocked on the side and walked in. Anakin saw Padme's stuff and knew that she was here, but what was she going to be doing?
Must be
There had to be
2
something
more.
wrong. Anakin called out Padme's name, and there was not a sound. Anakin started walking into the main part of the complex. As he walked through the hallways heading towards Padme's room, when he got there, he saw her lying on her bed, completely asleep. Anakin walked in and sat down on her side of the bed, brushing her hair out of her face and feeling her to make sure her temperature was alright. Her temperature wasn't too high, but she was in a deep sleep apparently. Anakin then heard the moving of gears and he turned over and saw C-3PO. He smiled and stood up.
That's the second.
Instructed,
One more to go.
essentially his wedding gift to his wife. Anakin asked if she was alright, to which C-3PO told Anakin that she was perfectly fine, though there was something they should see. Anakin was being confused, but he followed the protocols to it. As they walked through the corridors, Anakin asked what was wrong. C-3PO didn't say a thing, pressing a button on the door, moving it out of the way. Anakin looked at the protocol droid and stepped through the door. Inside, there were 2 pods, and inside of each pod were children. Anakin whipped his head around and asked 3PO whose kids these were, and the droid responded gleefully that the children belonged to him. Anakin asked if Padme adopted them. 3PO shook his head, and then Padme came around the corner. She smiled and told Anakin that they were his children. She'd given birth while he was out on campaign. Currently, she was on maternal leave from the Senate, even though no one knew who the father was. Padme told the Senate that she had her father hidden because he didn't like being in the public spotlight. Anakin smiled, telling her that that was half the truth. Padme was very happy to see Anakin, but they had a lot to talk about regarding the situation. This changed everything. The war was still very early on and required the attention of everyone, including both of them. Though Padme couldn't be a part of it, and currently Representative Jar Jar Binks was filling the role of senator for Padme, just as he had during the first few days before the Clone Wars. Padme told Anakin that she liked to
Wisps.
raise the children
Figures
on
are
Naboo,
in the Fate, but I
for the
swear
Senate's
they're
all around
following me.
whim, she didn't believe it was safe to raise
You alright?
her kids on Naboo.
Strange place you've fallen
Anakin
into.
told Padme that he'd be willing to leave the Jedi.
I know
Order to help,
Varric wanted
and he
you.
really would.
I made a
But Padme
call
put
that
her
got
hand
you...
on Anakin's mouth and started to
If-
shake her head. While yes, there was concern for Anakin to be taken out of the war by the Jedi,
Of course I
he
do.
was necessary to
We're a
bring
team.
peace. Of course, Padme wanted
You take a
Anakin to be with her to raise their kids,
Andy.
but the war
Not
wasn't nearly completed. There was no sign of an end in sight, and she would rather raise her children
No,
in a
we
galaxy
just...
that wasn't covered in war. If the Separatists won, then her children would become slaves, and she didn't want that for them. Of course, that could be an exaggeration, but the Separatists were ruthless, and she didn't want to imagine what they would do in the circumstance they captured a Republic senator, let alone one they had tried to kill numerous times before. Padme told Anakin that within a month she would be able to actively serve inside the Senate again. They would have to be present in this war. They couldn't just not be. They had a duty to those who were helpless. Plus, Secret would be a permanent caretaker for
Okay.
the children.
That
Anakin
did
nodded his
something.
head. as he turned around and asked what their names were. Padme walked up to Anakin's side, wrapping her arm around him and telling him that she wanted to wait for him to return so that they could name the children together. Anakin smiled and walked up to their little pods. He smiled and said the boy looked like a Luke. Padme nodded her head in agreement. As she spoke up, she then said that she would prefer if both the children had the same first letter of each of their names. They were twins, it would be nice to keep them kind of close. Anakin rubbed his chin. First he said Linda, Luna, Lucy. Something didn't feel right about those names, though Luna Skywalker did have a nice ring to it. Padme walked over and looked at the child, and said a couple more L names. Some of them were more common within mid-range worlds, such as Naboo. She turned to Anakin and
Layla.
smiled. Anakin asked what the name was.
So,
before Leia
we
came
stopped
by.
the ritual.
It was
And
a good
Varric
thing.
paid the
It worked
price.
really well, too,
Hey.
because both Luke and Leia
Varric made
had
his choice to go
names.
talk with
Anakin
Solus.
got communication with his comrade,
He knew the
with
risks.
Obi-Wan. You know, he told
And now
Anakin that they were preparing
Solus
to jump into hyperspace.
He
It
did?
was time to get to the
When?
flagship so that they could resolve this little problem on board Plutonium.
Sorry,
Anakin
would-
told his master he would be right
You're
there.
sure that...
Anakin gave his love to his wife.
You're lucky it was.
said our connection wasn't strong. He could only.
So Solus is
But he's not a.
putting together...
Anakin was off this game. This game here because had it happened elsewhere, it's like when
We all know he's not a god, but it's faster than saying ancient.
You're
I'm not.
What do you?
Solus had two of the other elven gods imprisoned. When he got trapped, they escaped.
So those things we saw come out of the Fade when the ritual went wild, those are...
Elgin.
And they were trying to look at Leia into the Jedi Order. Anakin was also befuddled as to why Padme never said anything about it, but likely it was to avoid him
Just
worrying
like
about
that.
anything.
I know.
Well,
I'll
only 5 months before they saw each other when she was captured aboard the Malevolence before it slammed down onto a
If Elgin-
explosion.
Then-
Picked up
Nev.
on Anakin's distance from the situation. While he knew Anakin wasn't exactly a fan of diplomacy and specifically focused on his usage of a lightsaber during pressing negotiations, this was odd even for Anakin. He wasn't just disconnected from the diplomacy, he was disconnected everywhere. There wasn't a period since he arrived on the Venator of which he was normal by any means. Obi-Wan was mostly concerned if the war was taking a toll on Anakin's mentality, because the war was difficult on everyone, because people didn't wear it on their sleeves, especially not their emotions the way Anakin did. Obi-Wan initially assumed that when he broke some of his
For all we
ribs,
know-
that maybe Anakin was afraid of
If it
being
even
killed
takes-
in combat.
Nev, you sure you're up for this?
Don't worry.
Wasn't that.
Shall we?
Let's do-
It was always something deeper than what it initially seemed like on the surface level. When Anakin and Obi-Wan left the camp, they told the chairman about the request made by the natives.
There's the
The
ritual.
chairman
But if-
objected
Right.
down. He couldn't imagine bartering animals that couldn't even speak in common, let alone superior technology. They would love him. He was insulted, and the Jedi's way of thinking, considering Chairman Chow thought that Order Plutonium belonged to Pandora, he was willing to wipe out all these natives in an effort to claim his own presence over the planet just to prove a point
You
about
all were
superior
supposed to stop
technology.
him.
The Jedi disagreed with it. and
We
so
did
they
stop
did
him.
Chuchi.
This guy's not pulling himself
Disruptive
apart
love that
anymore,
cost
is
the
he?
lives of Chairman
But-
Chow,
But
multiple or all of his
it
guards,
didn't go
and
as
several
cleanly
of the
as we
troopers that
hoped.
came here.
Solus got pulled into the
When
Fade,
everything was seemingly
or some.
resolved, Kenobi took Anakin aside and began talking to him. He was worried about his former student. He didn't want Anakin feeling like he was alone in all this.
I was really-
So he told his student
But no-
that he would be here to help him if he needed it. Anakin pushed Obi-Wan away though.
Right.
He didn't want to be forced from the Jedi Order, because there was no scenario in which Anakin would be able to effectively get away with having a family. Having 2 children, a wife, and being in love with them wasn't okay. Though, maybe there was a way. No, there wasn't. Never mind. The only way it would work is if, before Anakin could finish his thoughts, communication came in from Naboo.
Is it me?
Representative Banks had gone to the
Or is
planet
there
to
something
investigate
strange
unusual
about this
occurrence
fog?
that had been going on
It all
for
feels a
number of
little
days.
off.
Then,
Like,
it
that
our
suit of
planet
armor
was the entire
moving? Who are you? Lace Harding.
Well, the the elven gods, Let's see.
Oh,
When Jar Jar went out to investigate the issue, he went on a covert op in the forest of Naboo, where he was
Like
discovered by the Separatists. Though
But what?
being as clumsy as
See
he
that?
was, he fell in
That's
the
a-
hole, kicking the
it's-
blaster
you
rifle
can-
and the blaster shot the little service droid that Dr. Bindi had around the lab.
A bu-
The droid dropped a bomb and it exploded. Within moments, Dr. Bindi and Jar Jar were infected. Shortly after that, all of Naboo was exposed, and not long after that, killed. The entire planet was being killed slowly but surely. The Shadow virus didn't target anyone. It wasn't about
Someone
survival
make
of the
camp
fittest.
all the way out
It
here?
opened parameters for
We've got
everyone to
camps
kill.
all over Arlathan. Veiljumpers do, I mean.
Republic
You
executives
never
watched
really know
the
when or
Pentagon
where
slowly.
the magic's gonna
No
start
one
going
outside
wild.
Republic military structure, the Senate, or the Jedi knew about this. They kept it on the down low, because how else could the Republic inform its people that a scientist released the most toxic weapon known in the galactic history on an entire planet? It said something too, because even Sidious feared this, and he was livid considering the fact that Dr. Bindi, who was
I've been
associated with
trying
Count
to
Dooku,
get to the artifact at the center of the bubble, but these magical constructs keep getting in the way.
We've handled our share of demons. A few dozen more shouldn't be a problem.
Spirits, not demons. They're animating those suits of armor. The owner's attuned to the artifact to protect it from threats.
That's like us, I'm guessing.
With his pity party telling the Senate that the Separatists needed to be stopped, and the first effort would be to go to the planet of Naboo to recover any data and use this terrible bomb against the Separatists. Not all of the Senate was on board with this, but they were on board with the idea of taking the bomb and the chemicals away from Naboo, just in case. Palpatine sent the largest sector fleet to Naboo, guided by Jedi Master Plo Koon and the Wolf Pack. The Wolf Pack was known for their expertise in extractions, plus Master Plo Koon's maps were given enough time to breathe through the planet to retrieve materials. The clones went down to the surface with them, and they would be wearing protective gear too. The entire goal was to retrieve this deadly virus and take every single vial and remove it from Naboo and take it to a secret Republic facility, guided by Jedi Master Plo Koon, of course. The landing procedure was difficult. The entire planet was covered
Is that
in
water
mist.
just swirling
Landed,
into the
the
air?
clones had a
We
total
call
of 30
that
minutes
kind the
to get to the
whirlpool.
bomb chamber
The
to
anomaly,
retrieve
I
the
mean.
toxic weapon
Never seen
and
one
get
of
off the
this
planet
size, though.
before their air tanks ran out. Plo Koon had 25 minutes, so in reality the clones had 25 minutes to get in and get out. The clones landed and exited their gun ship and began to descend into the base. They weren't expecting droids, but they ran into battle troops immediately because, well, they weren't affected by the explosion of the bomb. They had no orders, and so immediately a firefight broke out. Plo got in front of his men and began cutting down the droids. He yelled back and told his men to find the bombs and get a hold of them. They had 22 minutes to work with. The main hallways were cleared out.
Demons!
The undeniable sound of
Right
destroyer
where we
droids
need to
made
go.
Plo move the rest of his
Let's deal with them.
searching the files of the toxic weapon. He couldn't get rid of the destroyers. On the other side of the base, he made the whole thing larger than the bomb. He said his words. His squad began unpacking the bombs and placing them in the platforms. They had 13 minutes left at this time, and they got everything together. Plo, they really had 8 minutes left. It was a bit of an undesirable situation to be in. They had no bombs. They made their way towards the exit, but there were lots of droids.
Watch your back!
Plo Koon had the droids, as he used force to push any of the fallen battle droids out of the way. He got closer and told his men to climb. He would be great, and then 6 minutes left. Then began to climb the ladder. The LAAT was totally down. Outside there were more battle troops waiting for clones. Though they were hidden in a distant blue smoke. Then the virus was getting thicker, and the LAAT was hidden in the smoke. The clones took cover and began firing. After all went around the bunker, Plo jumped up and close up behind them. Plo began helping them extracting themselves, using vision and force, and even through the darkness of the blue smog, he looked at the LAAT and told his men where to go and direction. 4 minutes left. The clones fired away, cutting down the few droids they came across. Plo told the LAAT to take off. All the clones were on board, but he wasn't. He
So
slashed
what
away, and
is
when he
this
saw the
artifact
LAAT
we're looking
lift
for,
into the air,
exactly?
he leapt up
I
with
have
force
a
and
couple of
landed in the doorway of
theories,
the
but
vessel.
nothing
The ship sped
definite.
its way out
We
of the
might
Earth's
find some
atmosphere
clues in the ruins,
to the Venator
though.
above. With all the Blue Shadow virus taken and captured, it was time the galaxy learned what happened here in Naboo. 600 million lives
I
were
don't
lost,
usually see
and
elven
that wasn't even counting the millions of other life forms
that
on the
haven't been
planet.
picked over.
It was just a
Not
catastrophic
many people
occasion,
come this far
and
into
for Palpatine,
Arlathan.
it worked in his
Just
favor. He could
Veiljumpers mostly.
perpetuate the war to
And
continue
people trying
on
to save the
longer.
world, apparently.
And now he had a weapon that he could use anytime and where.
Wow.
The Shadow virus was being
I've
transported to
never
Mount
seen
Tantus on
anything
Wayland.
like this.
Though Palpatine was very
Wait,
unaware that Jedi Master
is
Plo
this-
Koon was going
No.
there as well. When Plo learned of Tantus, he
Not
informed the
here.
council about the
Can't be
fact that the
what?
Chancellor was keeping
We have to
secrets
get
from
over
the
there.
Jedi,
The
as well
artifact
as
we're
saving the
looking for
precise
must be
location for
inside.
its base and all the details
What
he
was
could find
this
about
place?
it. Plo
Could have
found
been
this
a
very
temple, could have been where they stored food.
Anakin and Padme, on the other hand,
Judging by the
were dealing with
sentinels,
this crisis.
probably
Padme was still
something
not allowed
important.
back into the Senate for maternity leave, and Anakin happened to be back on world. It was during the same period of time that bounty hunter Cad Bane held a number number of representatives
Are we
captive,
just supposed to
so
jump
he needed
across?
Zero the Hutt for a bounty.
No, we can
Patton
make a
was
bridge.
terribly sad.
There should be
It was
a power
incredibly
crystal
depressing
somewhere
time.
nearby.
Everything she ever knew was lost.
Got it.
Anakin tried
Bring
to
it over
console
here
her,
and
but
slot it
what
in.
could you do when the love of your life loses her entire planet?
And there we go.
And it isn't just
Easy.
the family, it's creations,
That's
memories,
a great
places, history,
A
everything that
resonance
made her,
amplifier.
had
Drawing
this
that
being
from the Rune Temple to this area.
Anakin could feel all of her
We need
suffering.
to shut it
It was
down
truly
before we can
horrific.
go up the path.
He did everything he
If
could for her.
doing that
While this was
would
going on, the entire
attract
Republic
anything
wanted
nasty
Republicans
that's
to
hanging
do.
around.
And the Republic
We're
Party
ready.
was incredibly high. People couldn't believe that the Separatists would do such a thing. The loss of Naboos combined worse than any casualty over the last combined 1,500 years. It was a worse travesty.
See that,
And it
bad
ripped
guys?
apart the gods. Separatists were outraged at how Duke went out of the as well. Though the truth is, there was never really true confidence. Afterwards, Anakin came up with an idea to make life in such a negative situation. But that returned to determine the thing. He told her the Jedi permitted intermingling in circumstance that the entire population was increasing or edge of falling apart. Anakin could have some wives and some children. If Anakin had to divide Luke and Leia alone, they could ethically explain its way as two came together without need to keep them. Of course, it's hard. Jedi that literally and ethically commit this action. There was no saying that they could deny Anakin the existence of an endless gene. It really was a technicality. How could Anakin not take advantage of it?
They're shooting for us.
The downside of it first, and the reason for love is the same because you Catholic, he was a grown activist in the Senate, and of course she was a peaceful campaign to end the war. Anakin knew with her
That's
just
the last of the magic
the
energy.
Jedi were informed of Skywalker and Amidala's relationship. They questioned every motivation that Skywalker had, and every question they asked him, he answered with a lie that fit their narrative. Anakin knew that with the High
So,
Council,
that
the other hand,
ritual,
he
the
was
big
who they
one
wanted
where
to
the
be.
sky
The only
was
issue
ripping
is in
apart,
the Senate
you
is that
say
many
that
of the
was
Separatists that
Fenrir?
knew Padme from the
I mean, the
Thieves
real
believed that she had a
Fenrir?
husband for longer
That's
than
what I've
that
been
was
told.
destroyed.
But right now he
It's
goes
true.
by Solus.
So,
And
what the Senate
sorry,
would just snitch on
the
them.
things that got
Which
out,
luckily for
the
a
big
very
scary
couple,
ones,
the senators had no
that was
real reason to
filming
snitch the
an
Jedi
ogre?
about the relationship. With
Are
Padme
you
returning
okay?
to the Senate, she motioned
You
for a
sound
peace
a
treaty to be
little
started with the Separatists,
flustered.
which would result in a
You
treaty
know,
that was
just
formulated
finding
and
out
then it
that
would
three
cut
of
short
my
the
gods are out
destruction of
there
the force on
trying
the
to end the
Armored,
world.
the assassination of
Why
Peter
wouldn't I be
Markiri.
okay?
The Senate was thrust deeper into the Clone Wars by granting more emergency powers to Palpatine himself. Dark Lord, the Senate was behind everything, learned that there was a secret marriage between Skywalker and Amidala. He realized that there were children involved here too, so he immediately crafted up a plan to finally turn Skywalker into the dark side soon. He figured instead of
Another
taking the
sensor
children
construct.
instead, he would see
We'll have to take it down.
needed Palpatine authorized marketing, Shadow Virus, Sereno, into existence. The entire population
You
of
know,
Sereno
but
evaporated
watch out.
overnight, and
Whenever
100
you see
million lives vanished from the
seeing
face of the
these
galaxy.
kinds of ruins
It was a
never
painful
gets
thing to do,
old.
but they
Can
didn't care.
anything here tell us
So
what that
now
artifact
you begin
is?
with the early steps
I
of the
have a
process to
theory,
overthrow the
but
Jedi.
we're miles away
Sure,
from
the
where
wasn't
that
exactly
artifact
where
should
he wanted
be.
it, but just as Palpatine wanted, the Jedi began to prove themselves in the war effort. The bombing of Sereno went against the morality of the Jedi Code. They couldn't stand for it. However, something Palpatine miscalculated was the public response to the death of 100 million people in Sereno. Sure, it wasn't a part of the Republic, but targeting populations did nothing. He wanted to study the Separatists which were made up of powerful plays.
Constructs. It means I was right.
Right about what?
About where we are.
Fine.
It's normal.
That was a study
And I
in the
think I
situation.
know what the artifact
Jedi
is.
stepping away from the conflict, Palpatine watching allies side in Ohio. Detroit Senator Amidala protested for
Watch your back.
stop the war wholeheartedly, allowing governments to cause this ceasefire. This is a coalition led by Benjamin Spock first, begging for this conflict to be stopped. So, really, the galaxy needed to see this conflict getting for again. Every single chapter on wait, forget this. There's a general rule of the Republic. This would be illegal.
Good work, everyone.
Risk it so that the galaxy didn't have to suffer a shadow virus anymore. When Anakin was on the way to Wayland, he
So
started having
what kind of
dreams
artifact shows up in an armory? A weapon?
An archive spirit.
What?
A creature of the Fade, bound to a crystal. The Ancient elves used
Anakin
them
found
to
this
store
also
knowledge
when he
into
was
elven
closer,
dream.
and his student was close to that glow. From the stories that Silver told about Blue Moon, there was no feasible way to prove this vision were true. Though he pretty much actually wrote about it was ironically, they wouldn't be going to the temple after this. They had no intentions. Those being intentions. Jedi arrived at the campus and then Jedi. Sure, they were recommending the Jedi. They were here. It's difficult to do it personally. Speechless,
Darkspawn.
the Jedi made their way
Here.
into the fortress by connecting
I never would have believed.
They traveled
Another one of those resonance amplifiers.
Get ready. Once I shut it down, the path ahead will remain blocked until the magic dissipates.
Facility.
We've got your
These were
back.
scientists working on behalf of the Chancellor. This was
Sure,
even
here we go.
weirder. Anakin told the Jedi Masters that he would create a distraction and they would get the bioweapon. They could meet outside and then they would dispose of the weapon of the one of them. Anakin left up the vent and slid down the system toward the force outside the city. The landing deck was being locked down. He could say that all scientists must report in the administrative sector. It's like the scientists abandoned the lab. The two Jedi Masters jumped down and got straight to work, getting all of the Shadow Pirates up.
Great hit, Rook.
Immediately. With the facility locked down, the Jedi escaped through the entrance they came through. The Jedi got to their ship that was locked away from the system.
I've never seen Darkspawn this deep into Arlington Forest before. As far as I know, it's never happened.
If the gods are blighted, like Solis claims, maybe they're communicating with the Darkspawn somehow. Directing them?
You saw those Darkspawn, though? Something was different about them.
And we'll stop them. Once we get out of this bubble.
Right. Let's get to that central temple.
Told Obi-Wan that they could get the attention of the Sith Lord and possibly move him in the plan to get rid of the Shadow Pirates. Obi-Wan asked him to do. Luke told him that they would use the Force to see the Skywalker's mind once he was asleep. They would be able to communicate with the other individual using Skywalker's mind as a plague, and likely be able to draw the Sith Lord to where they were going. Instead, they
More
waited until Skywalker
right
was
where you
asleep.
broke that wall.
As he was, they walked into the other room. And the Force revealed the enemy. The vision was still working. The vision was working nothing, and they showed the Jedi destroying everything Anakin cared about. They were surprised when they saw it happening, and the children, especially considering this changeable alive thing. Obviously, they built a relationship with the world missionary. People actually didn't care, and it wasn't their concern. What was their concern was the vision. It was the Jedi trying to hunt people to confirm them. And so the Jedi could draw the energy of an individual. Harm Anakin came back towards him. Palpatine was an incredibly powerful Force user, but he wasn't looking for this. This defenseless now. And the vision of the Jedi saw it and the truth really showed up at his man, and Anakin the truth was known. The truth had revealed Palpatine, and it would really do. The Sith Lord was shocked and outraged. They cut off the Force of the celebration and but now he was outraged. What they needed to do, if he didn't act now, he would be found out by the Jedi. The Jedi already knew who he was because they saw him in the vision. Palpatine immediately departed from Coruscant to go to where the vision had him and Skywalker. The three Jedi landed on a barren world, a world filled with no life, a world
another
with an
resonance
ancient
amplifier.
planet. Anakin at this point was fully awake, but Plo instructed him to stay on the ship with the engine. Anakin found this a little disrespectful, but he listened. Kenobi and Plo took all the bags out of the ship and placed them on all the pillars in front of the temple. And then a Republic shuttle landed. Anakin peeked his head out of the vessel and saw a fleeing cannon. Anakin wanted to stand up, his head big as as he pedaled his lightsabers and drove his blades forward, trying to shoot the Jedi. His head like the strike so hard that this was the battle of the galaxy. They lost, but Palpatine was winning the galaxy. The strength that keeps things on edge, even Plo knew he couldn't. Ceases to keep us.
The last barrier's down. We're close. I can feel it.
Using their various forms of lightsaber combat, it permitted them to stand up, toe to toe with the Sith Lord. Kenobi instead of throwing his feet as Sith, one of his lightsabers forward.
Have you noticed something about the blight?
Knocking over the blue shadow
Where it
virus
is,
as
I
it
mean?
exploded. The
It's
company
almost
started
like it's
down
feeding off
container
the
and
elven
Sidious.
magic.
As Plode slammed his blade down against the Dark Lord, it was enough to shock Sidious and make him stagger his footing. Plode looked at Obi-Wan, who was getting to his feet. Plode told Obi-Wan to go. Before he could, Sidious threw his lightsaber forward into Kenobi's knee, stalling him to the ground. Plode looked back and saw the virus creeping towards Kenobi, so he did what a Jedi had to do. Plode removed his mask from his face and used the Force to attach it to Obi-Wan's face, before using the Force to push Kenobi towards the vessel that Anakin was still in. As he did, Sidious ignited his lightsaber. Plode turned around, taking the lightsaber through his stomach. The Jedi Master grabbed Sidious's wrist, and with the tightest grip he could muster, he shattered the entire wrist of Palpatine.
If this building's what I think it is, then the alignment
Once
means
Kenobi was in the vessel,
we're here.
Plode used the Force to
This
close the
is
door
it.
behind
This
him
is
before
where
he
it
turned
was
back
kept.
to Sidious,
Where
who
what
was
was
trying to tell the
kept?
Jedi Master
The
to release him.
archive spirit,
Plode
or
placed his
as
bare
Nation
hand
else
on
called it,
Sidious's shoulder, holding him in
Goddess
place.
Fallen.
The shadow virus
Means the inevitability of knowledge.
What does that mean?
The Jedi shuttle flew off the
I
ground and departed.
don't
Not
know.
so much had to be
The
fixed.
notes were never very clear
First,
on that.
the shadow
Plan to
virus
find it.
on the world. What was said, there was no reason to pursue the virus.
More constructs ahead.
The
Palpatine
intercessor.
said,
We're
Jedi
getting
and the
closer.
Senate can't figure out if even behind. So it will take weeks of investigation. The Republican Times said like the Senator, vying for peace, with the Republican Confederates who were tired of his war, but surrendered to keep dead world and device war was permanent. On the other hand, the Jedi the sacrifice of Master Luke in the galaxy, Obi-Wan will be killed for nothing. His Lord is dead. His blood and blood can make that sacrifice, and sacrifice for truth. For Anakin, he could have the invisible flame, though this time it would be close to the flame. The Jedi would know about his relationship with him. That's what it is. Into the Jedi Order. And Anakin was not especially keep the new G4 alive. The Clone War could come to an end after promising peace debates on the peaceful planet of Mandalore. As for Skywalker's apprentice, she would eventually rise to the ranks of the Jedi Order to become Master of Ahsoka Tano. In the galaxy, that was forever changed without the influence of the Sith.
Looks like this door is going to need a second power.
Darth Revan, Pig Daddy Bane, Darth Cheesy, Apollo, Mad Zeus, Anakin, Zeus.
My take me at
Stop.
that. I don't
Let's go find
go to I don't wanna get on my reaper mode. I
Another ballista. I bet we could use it to break through that wall.
my ow. Ow.
We did it. All that's left is the Nodus Thallen. I have so many questions for it.
How do you ask it questions?
It's an archive spirit. You'll see. Okay. Oh,
Right.
What do you mean by tricky exactly?
the wind's on. Oh, God.
What the? Okay, that's just weird. I will hear that. Yeah.
Well, then again, I also didn't expect to learn that just one of those days. Okay, okay. There. No. Oh, keep that up.
Sulan,
What?
I
Right.
am the what?
Until it. Let me. Ready to go?
Right. Let's get moving.
Come on. I'll show you the way to the Veil Jumper camp.
Wounded, 16 on bed rest, and some of our most experienced fighters are still missing.
We're running out of Veil Jumpers. Whatever's going on out there, it's scary.
Nothing! Now get out! What? Another one, thank you.
In order to regain her youthful appearance, the woman got a bob.
You did! Babe, I didn't finish whispering.
Jahel Mil.
There are You're back, and you're alive. Good.
If you add baking soda to your tomato...
Sounds
Money
like things
is
have
in a
gotten lot
temple.
worse since we
It's a
left.
haunted house, so you just
Darkspawn.
moved out of your parents'
They're
house and
showing
have
up
no
all
idea
over
what you're
Arlington,
doing in the kitchen.
attacking
Well, no
anyone in
worries.
their
Welcome to
path.
episode 1.
We've evacuated
Here's some
3
statement of
Danish
apology.
settlements.
We ran into Darkspawn too, near the Nodister
Oh, hey,
Tholin.
Daryl.
Where have you been?
I was just at the store picking up my emotional support animal.
What store around here has emotional support?
Processor.
Archive's broken. Won't tell us anything. That doesn't matter.
Why are you recording
Any
the game?
Danish settlements we can save, we should.
So far, we've been lucky and arrived just in
I say
time.
I got your back.
But given how fast these Darkspawn are moving, It's only a matter of time till
Oh,
our
no.
luck runs out.
Another once in a lifetime event
run
for
out
the
yet.
1000th time in my 27 years of life, fam. At this point, I don't want no warning. Tell me where to stand at so I can ensure that I get hit.
Nev, you were still shaky, and
I'm coming,
Babe.
Harding.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to find there.
Did you know that if you add salt to the
Likely
potato
nothing
sticks,
But
along with
The Meadows
sugar,
Crossing's on the far side of the lake. There's a small boat at the docks. It'll take you there. Watch your back out there. And good luck.
She was half.
I just got a doctor's appointment. I got a bit. I'm a little